You can skip my voice if you want. All right, so, we have the first 4 training sessions. The first one is an overview, and the overview is kind of considering putting together a 1,000-piece puzzle. And if you're trying to do it without a box, it just is chaos. But if you have the box in front of you, you can at least get the corner pieces and maybe 1 or 2 in the middle to start out with. Well, we're giving you the box. So if you saw this presentation and you thought for a moment, well, I've got to write down all of these. No, this is not a note-taking session. We then dig deeper and we go into operational planning and development, which gives you a lot of the features and a lot of tools you'll be using. And then after that, we'll be going into tracking and monitoring. And then, as we just dig deeper and deeper for each training. But so this overview is going to be like a drink from a fire hose, and Leanne has seen it. We do give you the visual here. So as you can see, you're not going to be able to make a lot of notes. So just sit back, relax. Don't get angst about it, because we'll show you all the different details of the system in other trainings. So we were originally built in a public health department, a pretty large jurisdiction here in Arizona, where as we were talking about, in the wintertime, it was like, they service about 5 million people, and in the summertime, it's like 2. We get a lot of people coming in for the winter and enjoying. And of course, the past 3 years, we've had a lot of people influx coming to Arizona, just because all we have is desert. We don't have earthquakes, we don't have floods, and here we go. So it was originally developed for the health director as an operational planning and execution system. So what he wanted to do is be able to track and monitor and build an operational plan in a system, and have everybody have the ability to get involved in the organizational success. And hence, in 2011, when FAB came along, they had a fully demonstrated performance management system. And we started taking it to market probably in 2012. And we have approximately 230, 240 health departments. Via pandemic, we lost a couple, that is using our system nationwide for various forms of accreditation and the planning. We're able to meet that measure that was so important, and that is engaging all staff, you guys, and external partners in the organizational success. And my thing is, with you, our biggest and best resource is our human resources. And so we, like I said, we'll drill down on all of these things later on in different trainings. But first, we want to define performance management, and it's in 3 basic steps. The first one is creating an operational plan. And creating an operational plan just means that it's a specific group of people doing a specific set of activities in a specific time frame. And then the next step would be to monitor that plan, and monitoring it on many different levels. So we're going to be able to, people will have the ability to go into their dashboard and see how their particular group or plan is going, or their division, office, program. And then you'll be able to open up a dashboard to see how the objectives are doing on a particular goal, and how the activities are doing. And then there's the public view, where you're able to display how you're doing with all these services and initiatives to the public. Then the last step is to work the plan, check it, be able to make your adjustments in the plan in the system, and then go through that cycle again, that plan, do, check, and adjust cycle. To give you a kind of a feel of when Fred opens up the system live, you're going to see some navigational tabs going from left to right, and the pyramid illustrates the hierarchy of those tabs. So the first tab you'll go to is your organization. So the organization is at the very tip top of that pyramid. The next tab you'll see and you'll be working with are the groups. The groups could be in the office program, it could be your strategic plan, your 6-pack of plans, your QI department. So many different groups you can, so this is, again, the health department, what they do goes way beyond FAB. You have all kinds of other plans you can put into the system. And then underneath each group, you're going to have their own set of services and their own set of initiatives, which you're planning on doing in the future. Underneath those services and initiatives, they're going to have their own goals, objectives, and activities. And this is kind of where I leave off. And Fred, believes that breathing is overrated. And I keep telling people this because you can interrupt him at any time if you have a question, because no question is, every question that we have is pretty fruitful for everybody else to benefit from. And he's gonna put in slides to ask you questions too. Are you ready, Fred?
I'm ready. Thanks, Andrea.
Okay, I'm gonna get off camera. I don't want to distract from your beauty.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to walk through those 3 phases Andrea talked about, so you can see in the live system. We're going to develop an operational plan, and I know some of you probably saw the demo, so you're going to see a lot of the same stuff in there. But we're going to develop an operational plan around tobacco cessation. Then we're going to take that plan and we're going to run it through its life cycle, so you can see the various tools about monitoring at the highest level, the macro level, or down at the micro level. And we're going to talk about the VMSG public. How do we display that information to the public in there? Then we're going to take the plan through the PDCA cycle to see how we might do quality improvement on the plan. So we have a little demo organization we call USA Public Health, and I will take you live into the system. For those of you who haven't logged in, you're going to see a screen very similar to this, depending on your permissions as to how many of these buttons you see down here. But these are the tabs that Andrew was talking about across the top. So I tipped a pyramid, flipped it on its left side, and here we go. Organization is your health department. Groups is the structure of your health department plus primary plans. Typically what FAB calls their 6-pack of plans are at the group level. Underneath the group, you have a set of services or initiatives. Services are the ongoing things. Initiatives are new things. Each service has a set of goals, each goal a set of objectives, and then the activities here. I'm going to go up to my groups tab. I'm going to go down here to under Community Health Division. You'll see we have a group called Tobacco 2023. Under Tobacco 2023, we have a set of initiatives here, 3 of them: tobacco cessation, secondhand smoke, tobacco initiation prevention. These are just the big buckets of things we're going to be doing within that group. We're going to work on tobacco cessation today. I'm going to look at the goals under tobacco cessation. The goals are kind of a high-level description of what we're trying to accomplish without getting down into the weeds, getting down into the details. We have 3 of them here: reduce smoking in high schools, reduce smoking in colleges, reduce smoking in public areas. You'll notice we've set a traffic light out here next to it, which just is a visual indication of status. Green just means things are moving along as expected. Yellow means something is potentially going to get in the way, causing us to slow down. Red would be whatever that was, got in the way, caused us to come to a screeching halt. And then the gold bar indicates successful completion of that portion of the plan. So under reduce smoking in high schools, it appears that we're kind of on track at this point in time. Underneath there, then, I'm going to drill down to the objectives. The objectives are what we call SMART objectives, so meaning specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. So as an example, we're going to reduce smoking at Wayne High School by 25% by the end of the school year. Now, to get us to that target, we've assigned this person called objective lead. In this case, Steve Hansen is our objective lead. And when we get into the operational planning training, we're going to get a lot deeper into this. But for now, again, it's an overview to understand the model here. So Steve is going to be the guy who's going to be responsible as a project manager, program manager, whatever, to get us to this target. Now, underneath the objective, we're going to have a set of steps that we're going to go through. We call them activities. Some people call them action steps. And that's exactly what they are. It's the steps we're going to go through that we believe will get us to that target of a 25% reduction. In the dashboard, there are 3 distinct types of activities. Project-based activity is by far the most common. Quantitative measurement would kind of be second in there, and quality assurance is third. I got an example of each of these. We'll kind of talk a little bit about them as we go through it. Our first activity: create training content and materials for students and faculty on the dangers of smoking. So think about creating PowerPoints, maybe some video, maybe some training guides, things along that line. Every activity has a performance metric. The performance metric is, how do I know when I've successfully completed the activity? So if we're creating training content, once we've created the training content, we're done with the activity in here. Every activity has a date range, in this case, a beginning date and ending date, and these can vary over time depending on the situation. This particular activity is measured by percent complete. So you'll notice down here we have chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the notes field. So probably when Diane put in chapter 1, this was at 25%, chapter 2, 50, 75, and 100%. So it just gives you the ability to track along a time frame here. Every activity has got a team of people associated with it. Go up here and click the little black X to open it up to the whole department. You see these three columns. Team members, so we have 3 team members. We have Diane assigned as the team lead, so she's running the show, if you will. And then email notification. Email notification is part of what we call real-time planning. And in this particular case, Diane is going to get an email on a regular basis from the system to come back in and update, in this case, how far along is she in creating the training content. So she might go in and say, hey, I'm 75% done. I've created 3 chapters out of 4, whatever that happens to be. Over here on the right, this is occasionally used, but typically during budgeting cycles, FTE or full-time equivalent. What you were trying to do here is measure the human investment in doing this particular activity. So you can see that it's a 0 to 1 scale here. So you got 10%, 10%, 30% time in here. We do a couple things with that. One of them is we roll them up the pyramid. So you can see down here at the activity level, it's a 0.5 FTE to get to this activity. And the objective level rolls up all 3 activities, and it's a 0.7 FTE to get to the objective. So you can use this for lots of different things, but typically it's, how much is this program costing us in human resource for budgeting and that sort of thing. Also down here, we have the ability to assign external partners. So in this case, we've assigned Fred Erickson at VMSG Dashboard as an external partner. There is an option to make Fred the email recipient as well. So instead of you having to call Fred and say, hey, how far along are you in creating, let's say they're doing video production. How far along are you doing the video production for us? And then you go back, find the activity and update the activity. It can go directly to Fred, who can then come right back into the system and do the update. So it just saves you a lot of time and effort chasing down people in here. So that's our first activity, is create the training content. Our second activity then is going to take that training content and provide 9 training sessions each month on the dangers of smoking to students and faculty. This we call a QA or quality assurance activity. Now every activity has got a little wizard here, so I'll open up the wizard for the QA activity. You notice it doesn't have an ending date. It's because it's got a beginning date and a frequency, so it's a repetitive activity. You can set the frequency for anything you want, anywhere between weekly and or every 5 years actually. In this case, we're saying every month we're going to update the date, basically moving forward. This activity also automatically sets a traffic light based on the values we've established. So in this case, if it's greater than or equal to 9, which is our target here, it's going to be green. And we're going to say if we get down to 6 or below, it's going to be red, and then it'll calculate 7 or 8 to be yellow in here. Our metric type is training sessions provided. So now what happened is it actually created the performance metric for me. Training sessions provided, measured monthly, green, yellow, and red. So that's our second activity, is take the content out and do the training. The third activity then is, in parallel with doing a training, we're going to go contact all 20 tobacco vendors within 1 mile of Wayne High School to assure they're not selling to minors. This is what we call a quantitative measurement activity. And looking at the wizard here, the beginning and ending date, we have a target number in here. So 20 tobacco vendors is our target. We can count in decimal, which is just counting widgets, in this case, counting tobacco vendors, or you can use it to count dollars. So you could do budgeting and things along that line using grant tracking, that sort of thing, using dollars. Our metric type in this case is tobacco vendors contacted. 2 data entry types. One of them is enter a value to add to total. So if I'm entering a value, let's say every week, I'm going to go in there, let the system calculate the totals for us over here. Or I can say just enter a new total value. And in some cases, that makes sense, where you're just entering a value one time in that activity, and instead of having it keep track of it and add it up for you. So in this case, again, the performance metric is created. So 20 tobacco vendors contacted between 8/29 and 3/1/23 in here. Now, there is a new feature that we just rolled out this past week. The notes field is just basically notes about anything you want to do in this particular activity. But what we did is added the ability now to have a time and date stamp note. So you can see we have the date, we have the time, and we have the person who added the note. Just go ahead and type in your note here. So it just gives you the ability to understand who did the notes in here. So that's something that's new in there. So now, these are the 3 activities that we believe are going to get us to our objective. If we take the same view into the pyramid, it looks like this. Our group was Tobacco 2023. Tobacco cessation was the initiative. Our goal was to reduce smoking in high schools. Our SMART objective was reduce smoking at Wayne High School by 25% by the end of the school year. And then the steps we're going to go through to get there. So this is the planning model. Every plan fits into this model. And the nice thing about that is if every plan's in the same model, it's very easy to look at the status of the plan, to compare plans, go cross-reference to plans and things along that line. Now that we've got the plan in place, let's walk it through that PDCA cycle. So planning is done. Next thing, obviously, is to execute the plan. So in this particular case, we're going to create the training content. We're going to take that content out to the schools and do 9 training sessions each month. And in parallel, we're going to go start talking to those tobacco vendors. This is where the real-time planning comes in. Everybody who is assigned as an activity or objective lead is going to get that notification, typically monthly. You can set it for anything you want, but typically it's monthly. They're going to get a monthly notification to go back in and update the activity. So in this case, Diane's going to go back in and say, hey, I'm done with the training content. And then maybe whoever was assigned as the activity lead for actually doing the training will go in and say, yeah, I did 9 training sessions this month. And then the third person will go in and say, hey, I did all 20 tobacco vendors this month, something like that. And that information is critical. If we don't have any information on the status of each of the activities and objectives, how can you do the check phase? What are you comparing against? So we have a target that we've set in there. What we want to be able to do now is go back and compare the target to the actual information. So there's 2 choices. You let the system collect it for you in the background like this, or every time you do the check phase, you go out and manually collect the information so you can do the check phase. I guarantee you it's a lot more efficient to let the system do the check for you here. Now, we're in the check phase. In the check phase, I'm going to go back to my objective. So all those activities roll up to the objective of reduce smoking at Wayne High School. I'm going to look at my chart here. My chart shows that when we started the program way back here in February of 21, we had no reduction. And then we gradually built up a reduction until we got to our 25% target. So at this point in time, what we're saying is we had a target of 25, an actual 25%. Everything's beautiful. The plan is working. So in this case, going back to my PDCA cycle, that was the check phase. If you're collecting all that information in the background with real-time planning, it's that easy to go in and do the check phase. Now, the adjust phase. There's kind of 4 scenarios. The first one is what you just saw. Really, no adjustment is necessary. The plan is working exactly as we expected here. We'll continue the execution. Every once in a while, we'll go in and check it and just continue on through the cycle. Now, let's check this other objective. Reduce smoking at Desert Vista High School by 25%. You can see we have a yellow light here. Typically, when you change the light, you're going to put a note in there as to why. It says not quite to the 25% target, COVID restrictions on training and vendor visits. Okay, so we got an idea of what's not there. Let's go look at our chart here. So in this case, we ramped up, got up to 21% reduction and never got to that 25%. So we got a fairly good result, but not quite to where we were looking at. So at this point, what we know is we're not quite at the target. What we don't know at this point in time is why. So let's go ahead and drill down to those activities again. So these are the activities for the second objective, similar obviously to the first one. Create the training content. The gold bar says we're done. Don't even need to look at it. Second one, however, we've got a red light there providing 9 training sessions each month. It says training slowed due to COVID down here. Let's go look at our chart. So the first month we got up and did our 9 training sessions, 9. So we're doing really good there. And then all of a sudden, bam, we fell off the face of the earth. We're going to assume at this point in time, this is when kids started staying home due to COVID. We were planning on going to the schools and do the training, so we couldn't get to the kids at home, so we can't do the training. So that's obviously one of the things that's causing our problem. The second one here, where we have a yellow light, is contacting all 20 tobacco vendors. Again, we'll go look at our chart here. We got up to 14, 15 of the 20, and we capped off there. So whatever resources we had doing this are no longer available, so we can't get to those other 5 tobacco vendors. And yeah, they could possibly be doing bad things. So what we're looking at this point in time is between not being able to do the training and not contacting tobacco vendors, probably what's causing us to not get to our target of 25%. So back to PDCA. This time we're going to want to make an adjustment. One of the things we might do, given the situation, let's say going into COVID, not having additional resources to put into this program, would be maybe to adjust the plan. So we know we can get to 21%, maybe maintain that. So let's adjust our plan to 21% so we have a successful plan until this COVID thing is over with here. The other thing, if possible, can we adjust the resources? So one of the resources we had was the training. And we had the training going into the schools and doing it. Well, nobody's at the schools, can't do the training. What if we took and converted that training to a virtual based training that we could actually do over Zoom or whatever it happens to be and get to the kids and the faculty at home? So there's an option there. The other resource we had was contacting the tobacco vendors. Well, if we don't have somebody to do that, maybe we had some grant funds or something. We can hire an external contractor just to go contact those last 5 vendors and just, make sure we let them know that they're not going to be selling to minors. So the options are, no adjustment necessary. Adjust the plan if it makes sense. Adjust the resources if possible. And then the fourth option would be potentially adjusting the plan and the resources. So maybe we couldn't have any funds to find somebody to go contact the tobacco vendors, but we had somebody who could convert our training to a Zoom-based training, let's say. So that's an adjustment. We think maybe that'll get us to a 23% reduction. So in this case, let's take the plan down to 23, do the Zoom-based training and continue on with the cycle here. So that's the PDCA cycle. Every plan is going through this cycle all the time. By collecting that information in the background, the check phase is very, very simple. Now, we talked about having performance monitoring at the macro level, the big picture. That's what the dashboard is all about here. The dashboard is a dynamic screen, and it depends on where I am in my groups. So I'm at the very top level here at the department level. At the top level, I can look at the entire department on one screen. I could potentially, if I wanted to, I could just see our strategic plan on one screen or any of the other, what FAB calls their 6-pack of plans down here. In this case, let's say I'm the community health director. Under community health, I have tobacco and WIC. I come in the morning and I just want to know, hey, how's community health performing today? I've selected community health. I go up to the traffic light up here, click on it. Takes it about 10 or 12 seconds to gather up all the data points that I need. What it's going to do basically is show me a synopsis of the performance of community health, including tobacco and WIC. So the top left corner is kind of the big picture here. Basically, is all it's showing me is the number of traffic lights in each status. So the gold, the green, the yellow, and the red. And it's showing me the schedule gauge, which says aggregately in community health, we're 5 days ahead of schedule. If I get behind schedule, it turns yellow. 60 days behind schedule, it turns red. I also have the option over here to look at any of these 3 levels in the pyramid, the goals, the objectives, or the activities. So right now I'm looking at the activities and the traffic lights. So that's my big picture view to start with. Down under here, we have the ability to look at 3 different things. Number 1 is my people. So these are the folks that are working in community health who are assigned to the activities in our plans. First thing I look over here is, when is the last time this person updated their information? Ideally, you want to have everybody in the green, which means less than 30 days. Yellow is 30 to 60, and red is over 60 days. If everybody's in the green, you know you're working with pretty real-time information when you're doing your check phase in there. If you got somebody who's in the red, you might want to go back and have a chat with William and say, hey, can we provide you some training or something so you can get in here and keep your information up to date? FTE value is a roll-up of the FTE by person. So if I've assigned a person, in this case, Diane, to way too many FTE values in here, you can see she's at a 2.0 FTE, meaning doing a job of 2 people. You want to get in there, and I can drill down on this as well. Pick her activities, maybe reassign some of them to Tom down here is only at a 0.5 FTE, something like that. The lagging column here is saying that I have activities that are calculated to be behind schedule. The days is the same as the schedule gauge up here, but for an individual person. So we got people who are ahead of schedule, people who are behind schedule. Overdue says I have activities that are past the ending date and not yet 100% complete. And then a number of red, yellow, green, and gold. So just scanning across Diane, you get a good snapshot of exactly how she's performing against her assignments here. I also have the ability to look at groups. So I can look at those, the group screen you saw. I can look at any of those groups down here. Same basic information here. The third one is priorities. These are my strategic priorities from my strategic plan. So they'll show up down here. Typically, there's somewhere between 3 and 7 strategic priorities in your strategic plan. And what we do is map it against everything else in the system, so we know that everything you're doing in the department is actually rolling up and covered in your strategic plan. Up in the top right corner, my priorities. These are individually selectable objectives that you personally want to keep your eye on. When you select these on the objective screen, there's a little green flag you set. And again, we'll go into great detail in the future trainings here. When you select these, they're going to appear on your login only. So everybody gets to pick the ones that they want to keep their eye on. Most often they're things that are yellow and red, and things that are either yours or your team members, and you just want to keep them front and center. So this is kind of a bookmark up here. So that's the dashboard screen. Again, I can look at any level in the organization. I can look at the entire organization on one screen. Now, what we did over COVID, while you guys were out saving the world, is we actually went in there and built some additional functions. And one of those we call VMSG Mobile. So that same screen you just saw can appear on your phone as well. Login is identical. It's a browser-based system, so you don't have to have an app on your phone. So it's very convenient. And every time you log in, you get the latest information. So this is the same screen in the 3 phone screens that you just saw. So what we just talked about is the core functionality of VMSG and performance management. If you take what we have here and get that Fab 6-pack of plans in there, use the accreditation or reaccreditation plan in your case, use the real-time planning to involve partners and staff, the odds are really good. In fact, so far with us, it's 100% that people who do that get fully demonstrated by Fab for performance management. So it's really a simple process. We get your plans in there, you keep the plans up to date, and you're using that to update the plans through the PDCA cycle. That's exactly what Fab wants to see. Now, over the course of the years, we've had a lot of great feedback from people like yourselves that says, wouldn't it be great if? So what we're going to do is kind of quickly go over the additional features in the system. But before I do that, are there any questions on the stuff that we've talked about so far? Okay, let's move on. Document management. Up until about a month ago, this was called just document management. And what it is the ability to attach documents anywhere in the system. To any of those plan levels in the pyramid you saw, you can attach documents. You can attach documents to people. Originally, it was developed for accreditation and reaccreditation, where you're going to collect up somewhere between 300 and 1,000 documents to send up into EFAB. And now you can take and attach those documents right to where they belong. In this case, you're going to use the reaccreditation plan. The documents get attached right to where they belong, so you can know exactly where they are, know the status of the documents. Is it a draft? Is it a final document? Has it been submitted? All that information. So that's the document management. About a month ago, we added the intelligent part to it. And that's because we had a health department up in Michigan who came to us and said, we have a problem managing critical documents. So they had standard operating procedures. They had MOUs, things along that line that had to be updated on a regular basis. They're typically assigned to a person or a group to do the updates in there, but they didn't have a process to track it. So what we did is built into one of the activities, the QA activity, what we call a timeline activity. And what happens is, let's say you create a plan that looks kind of like this. You have a group called administrative services, let's say. Underneath there, you create an SOP or standard operating procedure service. You might have a goal that says manage and update all administrative SOPs. Then you got a goal down here that says manage and update all emergency operations SOPs. And then you might have a bunch of other goals at different categories of operating procedures in here. Under here, you might have an objective that says manage and update the destruction of records SOP. So a very specific SOP. And this is the document that's attached to the objective. Under the objective, you put in an activity. It says update the destruction of records SOP annually. And then I link to this document from the activity, and I assign the activity to, let's say I'm going to assign it to myself, to Fred. I'm going to put in a timeline, let's say annually, a 1-year timeline. So every year this thing is cycling through. In the, you have a percent to yellow field. In the percent to yellow, it says, let's say 80% of the way through the year, it's going to flag Fred, it's going to turn it to yellow, send him an email saying, hey, it's time to update this SOP. He's going to go in, do the SOP, put in a new version. System automatically maintains version control for you, reset the light to green, and away you go through the other year. So it's just a nice way to manage critical documents. Also gives you a nice place to put them, because anybody who's a user in the system can be given read-only permission to go to those documents and actually grab the document and use it for what it's meant for. In this case, destruction of records or whatever. So that's been added fairly recently to the system. Lots and lots of reports in the system. We go into great detail into performance monitoring training that we'll do a couple of times out from here. But the most common report, probably, I don't know, 80, 90% of the time, is this operational plan report. And in the case we're talking about today, it would look like this. You got the group Tobacco 2023. This is just a pyramid, basically. The initiative was tobacco cessation. You see where there's a document attached there All the documents will show up in green wherever they're attached in here. This data source is a field we'll talk about in the next training. The ability to attach a web link to any portion of the goals, objectives, or activities. So it's a reference point. In this case, it's a CDC web page that is smoking cessation fast facts that we might use to keep our information updated in the system here. You got the objective, you got all the traffic lights, all the notes are in blue down here. So it's a very detailed report. Probably the person who's going to be most interested in this report is going to be Steve Hansen, who's the objective lead, because he's responsible for doing all this. Everybody else kind of wants to know, hey, how are we doing? And that's where the VMSG public came from. The ability to share the status of anything in the system with the public. And the page that we're talking about for the tobacco cessation might look something like this. So these are called indicator rows, and you can see we have like 5 or 6 of them on this page here. This is the one for the initiative of tobacco cessation. Everyone's got rollovers on it, so I can see how many gold, green, yellow, and red I have, and then that timeline gauge, where are we against our schedule. Down here, I've drilled down to the goal of reduced smoking in high schools. Same thing, I've got the same information over here, and I can go all the way down to a specific activity of provide the 9 training sessions. So I can do my rollover, you can see how many training sessions. Bottom line is, this honestly takes 5 minutes to create one of these, very simple point and click. Bottom line is you generate this unique web address, store it up on our servers. So all you can do is grab that, you put it in an email, maybe you send it to the board of directors and say, hey, here's how we're doing on our tobacco program, or here's how we're doing on our strategic plan. So that they get that level of detail without having the report level detail behind it. You might also give that link to your IT guy and say, hey, put this up on our public facing webpage so that the public can see how well we're doing on our tobacco program or our strategic plan or whatever it happens to be out there. So that's VMSG public. We have a couple more quick sections to go through, but any questions on what we've gone through so far? Okay, 3-dimensional planning. This is the ability to look across all the plans for commonalities, gaps, overlaps, and that sort of thing. So imagine you wanted to know across every plan that you have in the system. By the way, this is just what FAB calls a 6-pack of plans. You can have as many plans on any subject in the system that you want. But you have the essentials of public health. Sometimes it would be nice to go in and say, how are we doing against all the different essentials of public health? So you can go in and do that. All the FAB standards are in there. So I want to go in and say, hey, what are we doing in the department related to FAB standard 6.1? So you guys will be going through a virtual site visit for reaccreditation. You can get them on a Zoom or whatever they're using to get in there. And somebody says, okay, how are we doing on 6.1? You can bring up what we call a category tag report. It shows every document and every plan element specifically related to standard 6.1. They love that because it puts everything in one place for them to analyze. The strategic priorities we talked about at the bottom of the dashboard screen, same thing here. These are the elements of plans that are related to partnering in this particular case. And the documents. If you have all of these documents, hundreds of documents in the system, it's nice to be able to tag those against the FAB standards, for instance. So these are the 3 documents we're going to submit for standard 4.2. So it's real easy to get to them, understand where they are, understand the expiration dates, all that kind of stuff. So that's 3D planning. The accreditation, reaccreditation project plans in there. You guys have the 2022 reaccreditation plan. So I'll kind of walk through that. It's a group by itself. I'll go down here. So we have FAB reaccreditation 2022, the local, state, and tribal. We'll go to the local plan here. Under this plan then are the domains. You got the process reaccreditation. It really is not much. It's basically the annual reporting and the reaccreditation process, which is just getting the documents together and submitting them for reaccreditation. Up here, however, the domains is where you get down to the detail. So you got the 10 domains in version 2022. Underneath there, you have the standards. Now, what we also did is use this data source to link to the FAB documentation online. So this would be a link directly to standard 1.1. If I click here, you'll see that it's going to open the FAB web page directly to standard 1.1. So it gives you the reference of the FAB documentation in addition to what's in the plan. Just kind of a convenience feature in there. Underneath the standards, then we have the objectives. So we have an objective or a measure called develop the community health assessment. The document required is a community health assessment dated within 5 years. Now, the question comes up, what has to be in a community health assessment? So drill down to the activities here. And here's the 7 items that have to be in a community health assessment. The first one, include in the CHA a list of participating partners. Okay, here's my document management. It says 3 documents are attached. I click on that. Now it shows you just the latest document because again, it does version control for you. So I'm going to go up here and say, show me all versions. So we have the original partner list, which is the first draft. The yellow light typically indicates a draft. Green would indicate that, hey, we're done with it as a department. We're ready to submit it. And then gold would indicate that we've submitted it up into EFAB. So it's just a nice way to track all the documents through their life cycle and when they've actually been submitted. Also gives you the ability to go in and look at all the documents by traffic light and just say, hey, what are all the green documents out there? Meaning we're done with them, but we haven't yet submitted them up into EFAB. So just a nice tool to be able to do that. So that is all built into the accreditation plan. Now, what we typically do to get you started with this is you're going to tell us who are the domain leads. So you're going to typically have, typically 10 different people, but doesn't necessarily have to be. What we'll do is push that name all the way down to the objective and activity level as a bulk push, basically, for each of the domains. Secondly, you're going to say, okay, we're planning on submitting in December 31st of 2025, whatever that happens to be, when you're ready to submit for reaccreditation. So we'll push the end date of all the activities down there. You determine the start date. It can be today or it can be 3 years ago, whatever you want it to be. But what we're basically going to be doing at that point in time is with the people's names and the dates, the real-time planning will be sending those people email on a regular basis to go back in and check, have you completed this document yet? Do you have the list of partners? That sort of thing. So just kind of helps you to manage the process. So it gives you the email notifications so that everybody's staying on track with doing the reaccreditation process. A lot of folks typically through COVID were still continuing with the accreditation process. A lot of people put it on hold, but we had a lot of departments who were continuing with the process. One of the things that a lot of people like to do is what they call a mock site visit, where they'll hire somebody to come in and review all their documents and review all their plans, just make sure they're ready for the site visit. Well, over COVID, nobody was traveling anywhere, and particularly not going into health departments because a lot of departments were working from home. So what we did is built the ability to have a virtual mock site visit. So you pick the person that you want to be doing your mock site visit, some fab expert. We'll train them on how to do it. It's a simple process. They'll go in and review all of your plans, all of your documents. They'll mark them all up here. They'll put a traffic light in there. It's a separate table basically in here. When they're done, there's a report that gets generated called an accreditation review report. Lets you scan down and look and see where they made comments, where they put a red light out there, whatever it happens to be. Then it allows you to make the corrections before you go off and do your final site visit. Ups your chances of passing the site visit pretty radically. So that's all built in there as well. Training, help, and information. We're going through with all the departments basically doing the live training. If you like doing e-learning, that is all built into the system as well. So let's say right now I'm at the Service Initiative tab and I have any questions about anything on this screen here. I can always go to the blue eye up here in the top right, and it takes me right to adding and managing services. So down here are bullet steps basically, plus all of the buttons that you see on that screen are defined here. The other thing we have down here is a video training module, typically about 5 minutes long, specifically on services and initiatives. This is the entire user guide in a hyperlinked PDF file that you can put on your desktop or print or whatever you like to do. This is what we call implementation guidelines. And what it is just stuff we've collected over the years from different customers about what works really well, what doesn't work so well. There's some templates in there for developing operational plans we'll be using in the operational planning training. There's some IT stuff in there about email addresses and firewalls, that kind of stuff. Just a lot of good information in there, how to engage your team in there. Who are the right people to start with, working with, and that sort of thing. So that's a good read in there. Up here at the top left corner, these top 5 bullets are training modules. If you go through all 5 of them, which the one we're going through today is this top one, so you can skip that one. So if you go through the rest of these training modules, most people will go through these 3, about 2 hours and 15 minutes worth of video. The administrators is just for those folks who've been designated as org admins in there, just about managing users and groups and all that kind of stuff. But these are very detailed video-based training modules. You can go in and if you like doing online training at your own pace, go ahead and use these. If not, we're going to be scheduling the ongoing training for all the different phases in here. One last section to go through, but any questions before we do? Okay, let's go on. Intelligent real-time planning. This is how we collect all the information so you can use the check phase, basically. Here's how it works. You set up the timeline. Typically, like I say, it's monthly. It can be anywhere between daily and monthly. You're going to set it, let's say we set it for the first Monday of the month. First Monday of the month at 1 o'clock in the morning, the system goes in and it looks at everybody you've assigned as an objective lead or an activity lead, and it asks 3 questions. Number 1, has this person been in the last 30 days and updated their stuff? Number 2, does this person have anything that's fallen behind schedule? Number 3, does this person have anything that's overdue, meaning past the ending date and not yet 100% complete? If none of those are true, no email goes out. If any of those are true, the emails go out. They go to internal folks, as well as I mentioned, external partners. In that email is a link, takes you back in to log in, and then you get an option to go to what we call Quick Update. I'm going to walk you through the Quick Update system because everybody will probably be using that. You're going to go through the Quick Update for activities and objectives and log out. Just FYI, the Quick Update screen looks like this. It looks a little complex at the top, but it's really not, because this is just the context, the pyramid. I'm at activity 1 of 6, my performance metric, only 3 fields to update. Cycle the traffic light, change the data value, add a note or comment, hit the next one, the next one, the next one. It'll walk me right on through it here. 1 second. So we're going to actually go through this process. I'm going to walk you through the quick update. I'm going to walk you through the login. I'm going to walk you through changing your password here in a minute. The email notification that goes out will look like this. The first thing up here is those 3 criteria I just mentioned as to why I got the email. The second one is kind of an FYI. For everything you've been personally assigned, here's the traffic light status. This is who do I contact if I have questions. This will be your administrator. So whoever has been assigned as a system administrator will go through this. You'll have their name, email address, and phone number. If you have questions about why did I get this email, doesn't seem to be working right, whatever it is. And then down here's the link. So you take the link to login.vmsgdashboard.com. It's going to take you right into the dashboard to log in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk you through the login process. I'm going to go through it textually first, but then I'm going to go in and actually go through it first. So I just want to go through the steps. So again, the link is login.vmsgdashboard.com. That's one way to get in there. The other way is just go to vmsgdashboard.com. You'll see in the top right corner, it says already a VMSG user. Click here. You can go into that. I'll show you that in a minute. On the dialog box that opens up, there's a third button called Send. The Send button says, send me my login information. So I'm going to click Send, put in my email address, and click Send again. If you receive the success dialog, that means, hey, I found your user account, I found your email, and sent you an email. If you get anything else, contact us. We'll get you fixed up. You then are going to go back and click the login button. And again, I'm going to show you all this live. Login button on the dashboard screen. You're going to enter your user ID or email address. You can go back and forth. You can use either one. You don't necessarily have to remember a new user ID. You're going to enter your password and hit login. So I'm going to now take you through that process here live. So first thing we're going to do is log out. This is a big red button in the top right corner. Log off. So this is the VMSG dashboard homepage. As I mentioned, already a user. Click here. We're going to go ahead and log in there. Here's the send button I was talking about. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to put in my email address. And I'm going to hit send again. Now I'm going to get the dialog box that says success, and that just says, hey, I found you and I sent you the email. Anything else you get up there, please contact us. Hit OK. Here's the login button we were talking about. Click on that. Opens the same dialog box again. Now, again, I can put in either my username or my email. So I'll put in my username and my password and click login. Now, just FYI, the password, if it's the first time you logged in, will be a crazy cryptic string of characters you don't want to remember. So I'll show you in a second here how to change that. I'm going to click login. Now, if I've been assigned as an objective or an activity lead, I'm going to get this dialog. If not, I'm going straight to the main menu. In this case, I'm going to say, let's go to the quick update screen. This is how ideally you want to be able to do your updates because it's very quick. Typically, across 240 plus health departments, it's about a 3 to 5 minute process per person per month to do these updates. So this is the activity quick update screen here. Again, the top is context up here. Got all the definitions of everything. And there's only 3 fields to update. I've got my traffic light. I can cycle through that. I've got my data value, whatever that happens to be. It could be 9 training sessions or 20 tobacco vendors, whatever it is. And if I want to put any notes in here, I can do that. I've got the little button up here to put the time date stamp if I want to. I've got my link down here, my data source link that I can open up. Then I'm going to hit my next button down here. Before I do that, talked about changing your password. The key button up here does that. Click on that. I would copy and paste the cryptic password out of the email into here, put in whatever new password you want, verify it like every other website in the world, hit update, and you're all set with your new password. I'm going to go ahead and cycle through. I got, looks like 28 activities that I'm assigned to, so I'll just cycle through all those. Okay, so I'm at activity 28 of 28. When I hit the next button this time, it's going to say, hey, you're also assigned as an objective lead. Let's go look at the objective quick update. I'll go there. So this is my objective quick update screen. So the objective is up here above the activities where it belongs, kind of in the pyramid. Again, 3 fields to update, cycle through the traffic lights, put in a data value, put in a note, hit the next button. Now, as the objective lead, I'm again over the top of the activities, so I can go in and actually update the activities. You notice there's 2 that are gray and 2 that are blue. The blue indicates these have been assigned to me as well. So I'm also the activity lead. And if they've been assigned to me, that also means I just went through them. So I just went through the activity quick update and got those done. The gray ones are assigned to somebody else. I probably assigned them, being the objective lead. I probably assigned them to somebody on my team. However, I have the ability to go in and update those activities as well. So that's the difference between the blue and the gray. So this is my objective quick update. Again, I can change my password from here. I can do any of the documents that are attached to here. Same thing, document management in there. Go to the main menu. If I go to the main menu and click on the objective screen, it's going to take me right to this objective. So I have more control if I want to. My help screen, and then I can just cycle through all my objectives here. So that is the quick update right there. And by the way, pretty much everybody will be using the quick update because pretty much everybody will be assigned as an objective or an activity lead at some point in time. Come on. The email that you get will look something like this. It'll have just your user ID and your password. Again, you can forget the user ID if you want to use your email address as your user ID. You do have to have the password, but then again, you can go change it right after that. Quick update is also available on your phone. So I use the example. I'm driving into the office in the morning. I go by Starbucks. My car pulls hard to the right to go into a Starbucks. Go in there, sit down, grab a coffee, pop open my phone. Happens to be the first Monday of the month. I see my email from VMSG. Click on the link in there, log in, same credentials on your phone as on your desktop. Then I can go to the quick update on my phone. So I can go through all my activities, go through all my objectives, log out, and I'm done for the month. So it's just a nice convenience feature for everybody who's going to be doing that, not necessarily sitting in the office. So that was your drink out of a fire hose for the day. Any questions I can answer? Anything else you'd like to see? Okay, next thing we'll do is we'll work with Leanne to schedule the operational planning training, and that'll be for any of you who will be actually doing the operational plans, so developing operational plans or entering operational plans. We're going to go through that and actually give you the kind of the hands-on experience of entering an operational plan. So Andrea and Leanne will coordinate that, and we'll get back with you guys and let you know when it's ready to go. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everybody.